Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Fantasy Stand where we are here on a Friday. This is actually pre-recorded, so I am recording this right before the Ravens and Kansas City game tonight for the start of the NFL regular season. Wanted to go ahead and share my results from the MEGALABOWL draft that I did have the other day on Wednesday morning. Was able to record the draft on my screen, but am recording the audio separate as I had the little one with me, so we were still doing some things and had to draft while away from the computer. So wanted to go in and follow this and just kind of show or decide, let you guys know the route I decided to go for this draft. This is a 12-team PPR, half PPR, I believe. I think half PPR. And we ended up getting the 12th pick, which was kind of crazy because we ended up, of course, just mock drafting that by chance and then getting the pick. And then literally our draft right after this that we put up on Thursday, yesterday, was the 12th pick as well. So in that draft, you will see that I went with two running backs. In this draft, I actually do decide to essentially go that route as well. So what I am going to do is we are going to follow this draft and essentially just show the results. So thank you again for following along. Hope you guys had fun and love y'all's team that you drafted this year. I hope Thursday went great for a lot of you who had Lamar Jackson, who had Zay Flowers, Pacheco, Mahomes, Kelsey, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, everyone. Hope everyone had a great start to the season. It's Friday, and heck, we actually have more football on today. So excited about that. We'll go ahead and start this draft whenever the first pick goes. Appreciate you guys following along again. And right there, the draft does kick off with CeeDee Lamb. Personally, I was hoping to get the 101 because I would have started it out the exact same way. With this being that 12 team, although I will say this only is a 2 wide receiver set. Still, though, having someone like a CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown in that slot would just be crucial. There are some great, good running backs that would possibly fall down to us at the next round. So, which is the reason I would go CeeDee Lamb here. After CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill was the second choice. Christian McCaffrey came off at number 3. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 4. Right now, we are on the 5th pick, and that did go Bijan Robinson right there. Breece Hall after that, and the top 3 running backs are off the board right now at 7. A.J. Brown does go, leaving Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson still on the board. Justin Jefferson right after that in 8, who we actually ended up taking in one of our drafts. Had always been taking A.J. Brown there. However, Justin Jefferson, he is the best wide receiver. It's unfortunate he is tied to the quarterback situation, but we already saw what it looked like last year with Nick Mullins throwing the ball. Now, supposedly, they have a better quarterback throwing, and should anything happen to him, Nick Mullins goes back to throwing him the ball. So we know the volume will be there. After Justin Jefferson, after Justin Jefferson was Jahmyr Gibbs. From Jahmyr Gibbs did go Jonathan Taylor and then Jamar Chase. This was then our pick. Unfortunate, you won't be able to see it on the screen as I'm just a little bit to the right. However, the 2 guys that I did decide going are the top 2. Actually, not necessarily the top 2 guys I have queued up. The next 2 guys there. So Saquon Barkley was available. Looking at the receivers, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Puka Nacua, guys that I'm not necessarily in love with. So here I decided, with it being only 2 wide receivers we needed to build out, decided to go and get my running backs here. So looking at the decision, I did know out of those 3-4 backs that are queued, Derrick Henry was the main back that I was going to take. After that, it was a tough choice between whether or not I was going to take Saquon Barkley, who I do have questions just along the goal line if it's going to be him or Jalen Hurts, or essentially go Isaiah Pacheco, who believe strongly in this year. So in this MEGALABOWL draft, I decided to go with Derrick Henry and Isaiah Pacheco over Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, which, as you can see in our Thursday video, I ended up going Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, essentially leaving that draft without Isaiah Pacheco, which of course was a bummer because he has been our running back champion, but I will more than likely do a video with all 6 or 7 rosters I essentially have uh, set up, not including, of course, all the best ball drafts that we did in the off season. But I have a lot of Isaiah Pacheco in here. Really wanted to have some of King Derrick Henry. And in these 2 drafts, at least nice to have, one stock of Saquon Barkley and, one to pair him up with Isaiah Pacheco. So after we did go Isaiah Pacheco there, the next team parking lot did go in Saquon Barkley. So they have the Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley stack. Great start with Jamar Chase literally falling all the way to the 11th. Had he been there at the 12, it just might have been way too much value to where we probably would have went Jamar Chase and Derrick Henry and then just hope that he shows up at practice, which of course he ends up going. But instead, he goes before us, Saquon Barkley, after Josh Allen was the pick after that, first quarterback off the board in the second round. Travis Etienne to pair with Jahmyr Gibbs. So then we were, of course, the first team to go running back. Damage Inc. 7 was the second team there to go running back. We're going to see who the next pick here with Justin Jefferson, who he's going to decide to pair. Running backs available, Kyron Williams, Devon Achane. Those are the top 2. Like I said, with this being only a 2 wide receiver build, this is where I essentially, if I was able to get one of those top wide receivers, go ahead and just choose my running back champion because you're not going to have to go out and find a lot of those wide receivers. I will say in this format, though, there are 2 flex spots that you can fill out, which is nice because no one likes to do all these drafts and then leave some of those better players on your bench. So I always like these league formats where they add those extra 2 flex spots. Just nice to have that extra guy off your bench. And if anything, really makes you have to go and choose your depth pieces to essentially have a strong, solid roster. So Bob McCrory here really letting the time run out. Looks like it's going to time out on him. And time's up. It goes Garrett Wilson. So Justin Jefferson and Garrett Wilson, 2 great receivers. Very interested to see how Garrett Wilson does this year. Had a lot of stock in him last year and got burned. So as you can say, I'm a little burnt out, at least for this year. There's other exciting names I'd much rather try and get a spark from rather than the disappointment of Garrett Wilson again. But with that being said, he'll probably be special because of it. So Jacob Jenkins, I will say, keep an eye on his team, at least between the first four picks. Because as I was looking at this, I even had to make a comment where I believe a lot of great value fell to him, and he took advantage of it. So sometimes that's what you have to do in the middle of the draft. You're going to get some guys who are going to fall to you, and as you can see right there, out of the running backs of Devon Achane and Kyron Williams, he goes Achane. So starts off his team with an ace wide receiver, comes back around and gets a just top running back. As long as he is on the field, Devon Achane is a top running back. Obviously, that's a backfield that wouldn't be a bad idea to make sure and get all the pieces of, if not Mostert. I at least would try and leave the draft with that Jalen Wright rookie that they drafted, just in case anything happens to either Achane or Mostert. Wright will then have a role in some way, shape, or form. He's got the speed that the offense likes. So, if anything, as you guys are going through this and as the season goes along and any injury happens between one of those two running backs, make sure Jalen Wright is on your roster, or the fact that you spend up some fab, especially if any of those injuries prove to be significant. Right after that, though, Marvin Harrison Jr. does go to the Brees Hall owner. Wingo Man does start this draft off with Brees Hall and Marvin Harrison Jr. Brees Hall, top running back. He's going to be great. Once again, just with those running backs, you have to make sure and try and leave with the main backup. So hope he targets Braylon Allen towards the end. The Bijan owner, Tyler Algier, Christian McCaffrey. Right now, making sure you get Jordan Mason in case anything with that calf injury causes anything else. What was it? Wasn't Joe Burrow who had the calf injury last year, and then that turned into the Achilles injury or so, or something. But even then, calf injuries, that's what happens. They either linger or they cause hamstring injuries or Achilles injuries. So that is why, with the risk of having that running back, you have to make sure to get the backup. And that's the only thing, at least my opinion, that that for these guys who is the for sure backup. Because if anything happens to them during the season, those guys are going to have a significant role. 20 seconds left here for the Bijan owner. S.J. Ether. Three. Time's up. And Drake London actually goes there. Which is, so it auto-picked him for Drake London. Here's the thing, though. Drake London was not the next wide receiver on the board. There was also Puka Nacua still on the board. Devontae Adams. So, obviously, Drake London was queued there and ended up going before Puka. So, interesting. I know it auto-picked and it wasn't necessarily a selection, but who's the deucer? I forgot who's the Atlanta homer. Is that him? Is he in our league? Got to keep an eye out. But Bijan, Drake London, double Atlanta. Oh, I hope you get Kirk Cousins. Just get him on the team. After Drake London, Devontae Adams. Wow, when we first started drafting, especially in best ball, we actually have a lot of how MJ started here with Amon-Ra and Devontae Adams. Because essentially we could wait and get our third quarterback in a lot of redrafts. So especially our main quarterback in Isaiah Pacheco or Kyron Williams, Devon Achane, these guys who you were hoping were falling to round 3, you have to pull the trigger on in round 2 because those guys are not making it back to you. Or here's the thing, if you choose one of them and then one of those other guys makes it back to you, smash draft that play, and then now you for sure have that position locked up with your top wide receiver. So I'm interested to see what running backs he essentially targets on his way back. I mean, the only one available would have been possibly Josh Jacobs, but as you can see, the 101 started. That's how I would have wanted to start as well. Kyron Williams was one of the backs that of the 4 that I was hoping. Would have loved to see if Pacheco would have made it back should we have had the 101, but with us having the 12, we know he is not making it on any other squad. After Josh Jacobs at the start of round 3, Patrick Mahomes goes after that. So the 2 pick, he starts off Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelsey, Patrick Mahomes. So at least that's essentially is the OG Kansas City stack right there. And then the 3 started off Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, and Chris Olave. The fact that Puka Nacua fell that far in the second is insane, but that knee injury and just a lot of people thinking that Cooper Kupp is now the one who is taking back that throne. Crazy that value fell to him. After that, MJ the GOAT, instead of going running back, which I guess there weren't really there wasn't really anyone there, decides to go Deebo Samuel. So 3 straight wide receivers, great wide receivers. So you have both wide receivers and one of the flex options now filled up. The Atlanta homer goes Brandon Ayuk after that. So Bijan Robinson as 1 RB starter with Drake London and Brandon Ayuk after that. So the both 49ers go back to back. All right, here in the middle of the third, Wingo Man, see which route he decides to go. Goes with Sam Laporta. And I mean, this isn't a bad way to start. You know, you have one less, essentially one less position to fill on the roster, so you can go out and attack. And look at that with Jacob Jenkins, like I was saying, with the value falling to him. We would have loved it if Cooper Kupp would have fell to us. Heck, the fact that he fell there through the 3-7, we had a draft where we were essentially in Jacob Jenkins' spot and started somewhat similar, but the guy before us ended up taking Kupp, so we had to essentially pivot. But great start there with, I'll read over Ringleman who took Laporta, Breece Hall, Marvin Harrison Jr., Laporta. That's his start. Jacob Jenkins, A.J. Brown, Devon Achane, Cooper Kupp. That's a great start. Baba Chrono goes 3 straight wide receivers. The second team, there are 2 teams that went 3 straight wide receivers to start off their draft. Everyone most likely diversified, at least got 1 running back. If they did not get 1 running back, spent up on a tight end. 1 team spent up on a tight end and quarterback with Travis Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes at the beginning. So he is looking for some great value to fall to him towards the end. After Cooper Kupp, Nico Collins went for that 3 wide receiver stack. Damage Inc. decided to go with Stephon Diggs as his first wide receiver. So Houston wide receivers go back to back right there. Rachaad White after that, and then Jalen Hurts right before us, who, let me tell you, when you're here at the turn, that is not a bad place to be, to have Jalen Hurts essentially there, to have a top quarterback like that. Here at the end, though, we were essentially targeting wide receiver for sure. And the main one wide receiver we decided to attack and go with, that is on our radar right here out of the 2 we have queued up with Malik Neighbors and Mike Evans, is going to be Malik Neighbors for sure. I am kind of taking the time down a little bit because my only thing is I don't know who my second pick is going to be. And right now it is either a choice between of Mike Evans, who would be a great wide receiver too, and then we, of course, shore up our running back and wide receiver positions, and then know that our next guys are going to go to our flex, or essentially start filling out our running backs and tight ends as well. Lamar Jackson, though, is the other person in consideration, and only because he was last year's MVP, We have a shot at him here. We thought about possibly Jalen Hurts, so why not go with last year's MVP, who is now in his second year in the offense where he got that MVP season. So, right here was really the toughest decision between Mike Evans and Lamar Jackson. Heck, James Cook possibly in consideration as well, with him putting up 1,500 yards last year. We did decide to go with Lamar Jackson purely with the fact knowing that this is two wide receiver sets. There are some other wide receivers we like later on that we are hoping essentially can fall to us. The main ones that we are looking for are Tank Dell, maybe Rashee Rice. Could possibly, that would be a great wide receiver too. Terry McLaurin is another one. Calvin Ridley. There are, Zay Flowers maybe, with us having Lamar Jackson now. But that just really all depends because, like I said, a lot of guys, for sure are going to be the one there. But after we went Lamar Jackson, as you can see, DJ Moore goes, Jalen Waddle after that, DK Metcalf, James Cook finally to that Baba Chrono team who went three wide receivers. So James Cook is their running back one. After James Cook, Mike Evans finally goes, and look at that. Let me tell you, the first four picks for Jacob Jennings, that is a great start. That is a great start. A.J. Brown, Devon Achane, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans. Those are the first four picks in the MEGALABOWL draft for this guy here at the 7 spot. So I commend him essentially just taking the value that falls to him. That could be a really strong and dangerous team. After Mike Evans, Wingo goes with Kenneth Walker to get his second running back. S. Jatha goes with Tank Dell to get their third wide receiver. Alvin Kamara after that to be the first running back one for MJ the GOAT. So his starting four is Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel for one of those flex boxes, and then Alvin Kamara in the RB1 slot. Boswick goes with Michael Pittman. So his four are Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Chris Olave, and then Michael Pittman Jr. We'll go ahead and see who Kenobi decides to go. Interesting start here. Gets his first running back and decides to go with Joe Mixon, who started running back for the Houston Texans. Did have that injury early on in the preseason training camp, which scared a lot of people, which even scared the Houston Texans, where they went out and grabbed Cam Akers to be a backup depth piece. And he kind of had some great moments during the preseason. Back at the 101, he already has his wide receiver. He has his two running backs. We'll see who his two picks are here. Captain Cool Beans? I imagine it's Captain Cool Beans with the Boston Celtics logo. Oh, and decides to get his tight end in Mark Andrews. I will say I think the news of Mark Andrews actually being fully healthy came out maybe the day before this, so he got great value. After taking Mark Andrews, he decided to go with Devontae Smith to get his second wide receiver. So two NFC wide receivers on Captain Cool Beans' team. CeeDee Lamb, Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs, Mark Andrews, and Devontae Smith. Decent core, solid core. My only thing there would maybe be Devontae Smith with the fact that him, being the wide receiver 2 essentially on his own team here, and how I feel you win drafts. Essentially, you want, the highest person on the depth chart there, who is just going to be the all-out studs. Just kind of ones, thinking about, Amari Cooper possibly, George Pickens, who is the alpha, but he is tied, to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. After Devontae Smith goes David Montgomery. So Kenobi essentially ends up getting his second running back there, pairs him up with Joe Mixon. So his 2 running backs are Joe Mixon and David Montgomery. To go with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. I mean, decent core. We'll just see how the running backs shape up. After that, Anthony Richardson does go to the guy who drafted Michael Pittman Jr. And of course, we should have realized it. The guy, Boswick, does have the Indianapolis Colts logo. So, should have been a key indicator that is the route he was going to try and go. After that, Joe Burrow actually goes right here. Before C.J. Stroud, before Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Mr. Stay in the Pocket, probably will not run. I have a hand injury himself. Goes there at 5. That's Jatha. We'll see who he decides to go. He is the Bijan owner. Has Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, and Tank Dell. So he already has 3 wide receivers. And it goes T. Higgins actually right there. Who is the wide receiver 2 on his depth chart. I mean, depending on if Jamar Chase, I think this was before Jamar Chase actually did show up to practice. But after T. Higgins, Amari Cooper right there. So Wingo Man start. He did get his second wide receiver. So his 2 running backs are Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. And his 2 starting wide receivers are Marvin Harrison Jr. and Amari Cooper, with Sam Laporta anchoring that squad. So solid core. Obviously missing a quarterback there, but missing final piece where, I mean, if you find the value, that'll be able to complete a good little foundation. Like I said, guys, here at the draft, this is your foundation for the year. The waiver wire is where you are going to essentially win your league and trades. A lot of people may tilt in the first couple weeks, especially with certain wide receiver cornerback matchups. So be sure that if anyone has a bad week, try and go and trade after the guy, because maybe that owner is panicking. After Amari Cooper, Rashee Rice actually goes, which we were pretty bummed about, because if we were able to get Rashee Rice as our wide receiver 2, would have been just freaking ecstatic, over the moon. Looking at other tight ends available as well, Dalton Kincaid was on our list. As you can see, we have Trey McBride here still, so we do have hope that Trey McBride possibly makes it to us here at the end, because if he does, he will not be making it back to anyone else. Come on, Damage Inc. So we lost out on 2 guys straight right there. This is where the draft starts to get pretty hard, because you'll start getting sniped by guys you've never met before in your life. But guess what? Are all thinking the same as you. Let's go. I mean, he's definitely taking his time. He doesn't know who he wants right here. Oh, with the wind down. looking over his build, he does have 2 running backs. He does have 2 wide receivers. And he goes Trey McBride. That's a bummer. Man, look at that. 3 guys taken right there, all on our board. Looking over our queue, right now our main hope, main pick is Terry McLaurin. Zay Flowers still available. George Pickens still available. Like I said, Zay Flowers maybe because we have Lamar Jackson. I just feel like the stack I'd much rather. We already have the Lamar Derrick Henry stack. It's do we want the Lamar Derrick Henry Zay Flowers stack and essentially go all in on the Baltimore Ravens, which I guess wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. That is a playoff team. George Pickens actually goes right there after Trey McBride, who was in consideration. Don't have him queued up, but out of the guys I do have left there, he would have been in consideration should he have been one of the only ones left. James Conner right after that, running back, which means that we get left with Terry McLaurin, which we are excited about. Right here, Terry McLaurin is the pick. Like I said, Zay Flowers also available. Really considering, but right here I'm like thinking, do I really want to have, 3 guys essentially on bye that I have to, take care of? And in hindsight, that shouldn't matter. There's always going to be guys on the waiver wire that you can pick up, plug and play, guys you can even trade for. So even though Zay Flowers is still here, I know that one of my picks is going to be Terry McLaurin, but the other sad part is with this being the 5th, 6th round, we know that we're going to have to take Zamir White here as well. And even though we have our 2 strong running backs, if we can get Zamir White essentially as an RB3 or to fill in for that flex spot, who will have that 3-down role, I think that is just going to be key. So as I'm taking this time down, it's really because I just don't know who I want after Terry McLaurin. It's, do I want to build and get another wide receiver, or do I want to build and get essentially another running back in Zamir White? Tight ends wise, the only one really available is like George Kittle. Kyle Pitts is there, Evan Ingram, but we're just hoping that possibly Jake Ferguson can make it back to us. As you can see, we just made the pick back-to-back there. Ended up going with Terry McLaurin as our wide receiver pick. And with Zay Flowers right there, we went with Zamir White. Just knowing that he was not going to make it back to us. We did have Raheem Mostert up there as well. If anything, out of Zamir White and Raheem Mostert, we'd much rather have Zamir White on our roster with the hope that Raheem Mostert can possibly fall back to us so we can grab him then. That was the decision we decided to go. After Zamir, we chose Zamir White. Parking lot decided to go with Jaden Reed. He was on the board there as well. So we didn't really feel too bad with Zay Flowers being a couple picks after, or at least not being picked right there where Jaden Reed was, because that means other fantasy managers didn't have him essentially on their mind as well. George Kittle goes right there, with him essentially being kind of the last set of the tiers. Like I said, the next tight ends available are Kyle Pitts and Evan Ingram, with Jake Ferguson, who to me is who we're just hoping can possibly fall to us. We are taking this chance, essentially waiting till the 7th, 8th round for our tight end. Because this is the MEGALABOWL, guys could realize that position is just key with just so many question marks. And we just, at least with Ferguson, we know right now he is the number 2 pass catcher there in Dallas, opposite CeeDee Lamb. There really isn't a number 2, other, I guess, Brandon Cooks, but Ferguson will be the one who I believe will be involved mostly around the end zone for those touchdowns. And that is the upside we are essentially chasing here, getting some of those catches, getting some of those 1 to 2 touchdowns, and hopefully just being Dak Prescott's safety blanket, especially with CeeDee Lamb, especially missing the entire training camp and preseason. Maybe he built that rapport a little bit more with Ferguson. So hopefully, hopefully he falls here to us. After George Kittle goes C.J. Stroud, pretty quick pick with Baba going Najee Harris as well, another back-to-back quick pick. With him going, what is it? Najee Harris, that is actually Baba's second running back. So his team right now shaping out is Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Nico Collins, 3 strong wide receivers. Jefferson obviously has the quarterback question mark. Garrett Wilson, of course, if Aaron Rodgers can just stay healthy, and if a Devontae Adams trade doesn't happen. Nico Collins, if he's the one there in Houston. And then his RB1 was James Cook, who, like I said, 1,500 yards last year. Touchdowns really were the question mark there, with Josh Allen kind of vulturing some of those along the goal line. He did go Dalton Kincaid after that as well, so it could be a Buffalo homer. And then right there with Najee Harris being that RB2. So has his running backs set, his wide receiver set with his one flex and stud tight end. So just missing the quarterback there. After Najee Harris goes Aaron Jones, and that is actually the second running back for Jacob Jenkins right there. Kyler Murray after that to Wingo Man, Kyler Murray goes right there to 6. Wingo has a pretty solid team with Kyler Murray anchoring that at the QB position. Calvin Ridley after that to S. Jatham. Man, that is what, five straight wide receivers after going Bijan Robinson. Calvin Ridley, great wide receiver. He was on our radar, had him queued up. After Calvin Ridley goes Raheem Mostert, who would have been a long shot to fall to us. Would have been awesome, though. Kyle Pitts, though, goes right there to Boswick. I think that was right before the hamstring news as well. So, bad beats. Kenobi goes Zay Flowers, great wide receiver 1, falling all the way there to the end of the 6th round. And then Captain Cool Beans goes with Keenan Allen right there, who, interesting pick after going the stud wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb. His next wide receivers is a wide receiver 2 on the team, Devontae Smith, and then a wide receiver 2, at least for right now, in Keenan Allen in Chicago. And even, too, apparently dealing with a heel injury. So, some question marks there. Maybe if this guy is a Chicago believer, just can try and hope and get Rome Odunze on the squad. Because right now, the only thing holding Rome Odunze back is the fact that he is wide receiver number 3 on that team. Should anything happen to Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, a lot of good things could happen this season to Rome Odunze and of course, the owners who drafted him. Xavier Worthy right there. He goes with the exciting Patrick Mahomes rookie. Let me tell you, we have a lot. I have a lot of Xavier Worthy shares as well. There are a lot of rookie wide receivers I like, especially around this time where if I had the choice between, say, if I had to choose between 2 out of the 3 of Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., and Keon Coleman, if all 3 of those are still available and we have 2 to choose, Xavier Worthy would for sure be one of those. And even though most analysts have Brian Thomas as that second one, Honestly, Keon Coleman is the one that we would want to essentially try and leave with out of those three. Hopefully, Brian Thomas would fall to us so we can get him as well, as he's going to be exciting on that Jacksonville offense, taking over the Calvin Ridley role uh, that was left there. But Keon Coleman being thrown to by Josh Allen, that is just the wide receiver essentially I want to take my bet on and hope that he takes over that role. He has great size, 6'4". A lot of people talk with him being the second round wide receiver. Well, yeah, he was pick number 33, so first pick in that second round. So I have no worries about him. And right there, Brian Thomas Jr., man, look at that. Three wide receivers who we were hoping at least one of those could possibly fall to us. Those were all on our radar. And let me tell you, if, like I said, if all three of them were available, we would have left with two out of those three. So that's a bummer with Keon Coleman being that next pick. Javonte Williams goes to Boswick. MJ takes Evan Ingram, and then Brian Thomas Jr. goes to the guy who just drafted Calvin Ridley, and that is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers straight. Man, that is talk about going hero running back with your stud and Bijan. Really taking a chance on who your RB2 is going to be, but let me tell you right now, you have all the wide receivers, and hey, if I'm looking, and depending on who his next pick is in round 8, who he decides to go, that's someone where if I have an extra running back who at least can put up decent production week 1, and maybe flip him for possibly one of those wide receivers, I may make a move because right now he invested heavily, in Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, Tank Dell. So T. Higgins, and then the other ones is T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Brian Thomas. What this says to me is maybe I have a shot at Tank Dell. Should he just have like maybe week 1 right off the gate, it's Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. And Tank Dell, has a decent game, but is like the lesser of those three. Tank Dell is someone I can go and target. Same with Calvin Ridley. Should he have any bad games, just any question marks with the Tennessee offense there with Will Levis and his Mayo drinking habits, or even Brian Thomas. Should he kind of have a down game? But we know what Brian Thomas essentially can do and become. So that's Jatha on our radar for possible draft candidates, especially with this year drafts being allowed back onto the league, onto the platform. Definitely, that's how you strengthen your squad. The waiver wire is how you work, but honestly, if you really, in order to have a game-changing roster, you have to be able to set up a trade that just brings on a stud piece onto your squad. So definitely keep an eye out for just some of those guys that just aren't putting a lot of that or just doing a lot of good production right out the gate, especially the ones with just bad wide receiver cornerback matchups. Week 1 example, this weekend, the number 1 matchup to watch right now, DK Metcalf versus, what is it, Patrick Surtain, who just got paid. Wide receiver cornerback matchups are real, so make sure to pay attention to that. Should DK Metcalf week 1 come out and have a 3-catch, 4-catch game, and Jackson Smith and Jigba essentially, takes away all that production because the top corner, wasn't assigned to him, so they go to the next guy, DK Metcalf becomes a trade candidate to try and go for. And, that's the thing. It's, a lot of people, they have fear. That's the thing about fantasy football is it's passion-based. We have our highs, we have our lows. We're excited. We're nervous because it's 4th down. It's like, go for it, just kick it. We all have our battles. So you have to essentially play off that emotion when things go right and when things go wrong. So just keep that in mind on how players do weekly and if they do it consecutively. For example, last year, like Calvin Ridley would have been a guy who was greatly someone who had those off and on games and easily could have been a trade target. James Cook didn't start off hot as well. Garrett Wilson, had the off and on games. So there's always going to be those players that you can essentially trade for that people are just nervous to have. Back to the draft, though. After Brian Thomas Jr. goes Ramondre Stevenson, then Jerome Ford, who honestly we were hoping fell to us here just because we really needed or wanted another running back to hopefully just be our fourth, provide value. Jerome Ford is a starter. He would be in that flex spot and thrive. Unfortunately, goes there to Jacob Jenkins, who to me is just choosing the best value falling to him. I mean, look at that wide receiver squad. He was the one that has the A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, and Rashee Rice. Solid four stud wide receivers with Devon Achane, Akering, and Jerome Ford being there. Aaron Jones is the question mark for me, but if he gets Ty Chandler, he'll be set. After Jerome Ford goes Dak Prescott, then DeAndre Swift, Christian Kirk, and then Tony Pollard. It is our pick selection, and right there we actually decide to go with Chris Godwin, who was the next wide receiver, top wide receiver on the board, who we thought, other than Deontay Johnson, just think Chris Godwin in that Buccaneers offense, the talks of him kind of being more in that slot role, where he thrived and got most of the production. Decided to go with him on our squad. And then, of course, luckily to us, as we were sweating, Jake Ferguson ends up falling to us. Literally the last tight end there. After that was just Brock Bowers and David Njoku. So we go ahead and take Jake Ferguson with parking lot going Ladd McConkey right after us. And then who was also on our board in consideration, but with Chris Godwin falling there, Deontay Johnson available. Heck, Roma Dunze was someone possibly in consideration of. There's a lot of rookie wide receivers who are on our draft, on our mind. And man, I'm actually surprised because in best ball, Roma Dunze is actually one of the first rookie wide receivers to go, especially before Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas. So the fact that he actually fell and was the last one of those still available was a little bit shocking to me. So Roma Dunze was in consideration, but just the fact that as of this, the Keenan Allen injury wasn't necessarily as mentioned. So to me, Roma Dunze still is the wide receiver 3 there with a rookie quarterback. It's the reason we decided to go with Chris Godwin, and we needed that as that wide receiver to choose there. And then we, of course, needed that tight end in Jake Ferguson, as we just couldn't risk, 2 more rounds of, 22, 23, 24, 22, 23 picks, whatever it is, until, us. So had to go Jake Ferguson there. Roma Dunze does go right after Nick Chubb with Jonathan Brooks before then. But Jordan Love right there after Roma Dunze. We know Jordan Love. If there's one Green Bay Packer to own, he is the Green Bay Packer to own. Deontay Johnson right after that to Wingo Man. Taking the great just PPR production right there. Wide receiver 1 value. Yes, it's the Carolina offense, but you're hoping with the new head coach, the new offensive guru there, that maybe it can turn it around. And a lot of people are talking Deontay Johnson being a PPR monster. So was considered between Chris Godwin and Deontay Johnson. You know, if we're looking at Carolina wide receivers, honestly, with the value falling, like Adam Thielen is a free starting wide receiver who put up production last year and could possibly put production this year as well. And also, we like Xavier Leggett, another exciting rookie. So that's where the tiebreaker kind of was Chris Godwin, just knowing that the fact that they're out of the three wide receivers, starting wide receivers there in Carolina, there are two that we essentially can get for free later on. Probably will bite us in the butt, watch Deontay Johnson just get, all the targets. But after Deontay Johnson, Zach Moss actually goes right there, who is the RB2 to Jatha, who decides to go the six wide receivers. Definitely will be a trade target for him to hopefully see if maybe one of our running backs, I don't know, maybe see this is why you have to get like 3 or 4 on your roster so you can possibly trade one of them for something better. So Zach Moss, then Jalen Warren, Jackson Smith and Jigba after that, then Christian Watson goes back at the one spot here. Devin Singletary goes right there, which very smart. One of the last kind of 3 down for sure starters available. And then waiting for him to take his pick here. We have a couple of tight ends kind of queued up. I need to take those off. But honestly, we're hoping for a running back can fall to us. And the running back that goes right there that you cannot see, which probably be able to piece this together a little bit better just to be able to see. And honestly, this is where the commentary is probably going to come out a little bit more, as I'm going to have to say how these picks turn out. But we are here in the 9th round after Devin Singletary. He actually decides to go with Brian Robinson Jr., which of course was a bummer. Wow, Rich Homie Quan dead at 34. Crazy. Other crazy news too. Breaking news going here. Russell Wilson reported some calf tightness and is going to get it checked out by doctors. Wow, that is some very interesting news. Wow. Justin Fields. Is Justin Fields the guy? What does that do? What does Justin Fields do to George Pickens? That's interesting. That is interesting. Well, back to the draft here. Sorry, after I reported some breaking news right there, because obviously I was away from the computer still at this point, so unable essentially to scroll down. But after Brian Robinson Jr. there to start the 9th, Gus Edwards goes after that, and then Trey Benson. Pretty bummed because some running backs decide to go. And we really need to get some, I feel at least one more good running back on our squad. So Trey Benson after Gus Edwards, and then Jamison Williams right there to MJ the GOAT. S. Jatha ends up going another running back and goes with Tajay Spears. So the 1B there in Tennessee. Wingo Man goes with Cortland Sutton, one of the last wide receiver ones, technically kind of on the board there. Jacob Jenkins goes with Brock Bowers to be his tight end 1. So a lot of excitement. Obviously, the best tight end prospect to come out of college, essentially ever, which is crazy. Uh, so a lot of hype in there that, can he put up Sam Laporta-esque type numbers? Really just depends on, can he stay healthy and obviously just, be on the field. And, what is that offense going to look like? Is it going to be more run heavy with Zamir White as we are hoping? Or are they going to chuck it with Gardner Minshew and Devontae Adams, who we had hopefully, who've been trying to get a lot of stock of in the offseason, especially in a lot of our best ball drafts? So right there after Brock Bowers goes Ezekiel Elliott as some of these running backs start to go off the board. All right, so after Zeke Elliott actually goes Hollywood Brown, which kind of smart because then you can move him to your IR spot. I believe in the Mega Bowl there's at least one IR spot, which is smart. Obviously, that's the plan that you do when you draft Jonathan Brooks. It's the plan that you do with Hollywood Brown, with him being out right now. Not on the IR, but at least out for this first week. So essentially, you can pick him up and then kind of have a hold piece for this week one. After Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins actually goes right there. And then tight end David Njoku. It is our pick right now. And we do have a couple guys we are eyeing. You can't necessarily see it right here. But the two that I did have queued up, knew I needed a running back, so actually decided to go with Blake Corum right here. Was really hoping Brian Robinson Jr. somehow fell to us, possibly Trey Benson. Rico Dowdle was still available, Chuba Hubbard still as well, who at least are for sure starters. Blake Corum, though, obviously, I'm very interested just to see, what the split is. We do have some Kyron Williams stock in some draft. Not necessarily a lot of Blake Corum stock, but just want to hold a piece, just in case. So decided to go with Blake Corum right there, and then our go wide receiver next, and chose Khalil Shakir. So missed out on Keon Coleman, who believe will be the starter there in Buffalo. But right now, Khalil Shakir is listed as the other starter. Curtis Samuel does have the turf toe that he is dealing with that will more than likely linger. So just looking at the wide receivers available, Khalil Shakir was the one who just kind of stood out to us the most. Over Tyler Lockett, over Romeo Doubs. Joshua Palmer was available there, who, also is a wide receiver one. A lot of people have Lad McConkey as the wide receiver one, but I believe right now it's at least Joshua Palmer. But went Shakir after we went with Khalil Shakir. I'm actually here in the 10th. We're actually going to speed this up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut piece only because, you can't necessarily see the bottom half, but I'll go ahead and piece this together and then we can go ahead and just kind of run through it. But after we went with Khalil Shakir in the 10th, here in the essentially the last 4 rounds, it was only 14 rounds, Adonai Mitchell goes, Curtis Samuel, then Austin Eckler, Chuba Hubbard, who we were bummed about missing, J.K. Dobbins, Chase Brown, Taysom Hill goes there actually to S. Jatha, who is kind of sleeping on some running backs, but goes with the cheat code Taysom Hill on Sleeper, I believe, listed as a quarterback tight end as well, so he will be able to put him in that slot. After Taysom Hill goes Tyler Lockett, Romeo Doubs right there, and then Rico Dowdle to Kenobi, which honestly was hoping Dowdle possibly fell to us. It was wishful thinking as he goes right there. Back at the one spot, Jordan Addison goes, and then Brock Purdy, the captain goes ahead and gets his QB right there at beginning of round 11. Here in round 11 goes Xavier Legette, Dontavian Wicks, Joshua Palmer, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Polk, who was on our radar, Jaden Daniels, who we did have queued up right there as well. Pretty bummed that he wasn't able to make it back to us. Especially with him going to Jacob Jenkins, who, he does have a lot of value. So obviously, quarterback. Jordan Love and Jane Daniels, great combo right there. Rashid Shaheed after that. Then goes Zach Charbonnet, Mike Williams, Caleb Williams right before us. Which, let me tell you, if we were looking for a backup, we kind of were looking for a backup quarterback, and Caleb Williams was the one who was in consideration right there. Just another exciting rookie, the top rookie, who could surprise us all, as he's the one who has the most amount of weapons and just could be exciting this year. Uh, Here at the 11-12 turn, we needed, I feel, another wide receiver, and this is where we went with Adam Thielen, that other starting wide receiver in Carolina, and then actually went with Jalen Wright. You're kind of looking at some of these running backs who just could, these are all the running backs that can take over essentially should anything happen to their starters. And with Jalen Wright, the reason I chose him is because, yes, he's fighting between Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert, but if anything happens to any of those two guys who are both injury prone, Jalen Wright is going to go ahead and step in and have a role. So he has blazing speed. He was an exciting rookie that we decided to go ahead and take a chance on. After that, though, Marshawn Lloyd does go, who is backing up Josh Jacobs. Jaleel McLaughlin, who could obviously take over there in Denver, but is it Javonte Williams? Is he 100% back from that leg injury? We're going to see this year. After that, TJ Hawkinson goes. Then Ty Chandler, who is just battling Aaron Jones, and the franchise loves him. Ray Davis goes after that as a backup to James Cook, Jacoby Myers, and then Jordan Mason goes right here, who honestly, if he would have possibly fell to us, would have been kind of a smart play just to have and hold, just in case anything does happen to Christian McCaffrey. Tyler Algier after that, who S. Jatha actually, the one who chose Mason, is the Bijan owner. So actually surprised he didn't go Algier there just to secure that position. Kamani Vidal afterwards, and then back at the one spot, Brandon Cooks goes, and then the New York Jets D, as we are down to essentially the last two rounds where you'll start seeing the defenses go. So from Tyler Algier and Kamani Vidal goes Brandon Cooks, and then when we go back to the 101 is actually Ricky Pearsall, who, thank goodness for surviving, survives that. Actually goes against Trevor Lawrence as well to double tap. So gets two QBs on the roster to start 12 and 13. At the start of the 13 goes the New York Jets. This is when you will start seeing a lot of those defenses goes, especially the smarter fantasy players. Wait till your last two rounds to get your defense and kicker. New York Jets goes right there. Then Bucky Irving, Darnell Mooney, Baltimore Ravens, San Francisco 49ers, Jerry Jeudy, Luke Musgrave, Cowboys defense, Dallas Goedert, and then New Orleans Saints. And with our last two picks, our defense we end up going with is actually the Houston Texans. Good defensive-minded coach. They do get the Indianapolis Colts in week 1. However, with how Anthony Richardson looked in the preseason, I'm kind of hoping that the Houston Texans essentially can take care of business and shut him out. So we go with the Houston Texans there. And with our last pick, this is essentially our Hail Mary pick. With the news of him being listed as a starter, we go with Luke McCaffrey. So you see it first here, a draft that has drafted Luke McCaffrey in the last round as a hold and see. Opposite, are they holding him out from the preseason? Do they like what they have? Can he be something? Matthew Berry thinks Luke McCaffrey can have a Tank Dell-esque type of aura to him like he did last year. So that is someone, after hearing that news, wanted to hold. After Luke McCaffrey in our last pick in the last round, Troy Franklin goes, Pittsburgh Steelers, Roman Wilson, some rookie wide receivers, Miami Dolphins D, Cincinnati Bengals, who do have the New England Patriots in week 1, Gabe Davis, Pat Freiermuth there in the last round, and then we're going to end it with 4 defenses with Kansas City, Chiefs, Seattle Seahawks, Chicago Bears, and the Cleveland Browns. So, guys, this is the MEGALABOWL team that we decided to go ahead and draft here. Obviously, we could have got, Mike Evans as, say, our second wide receiver there instead of Lamar Jackson, but the value there with Lamar Jackson, he was the MVP last year. He is now in the second year of the offense that gave him that MVP caliber season, putting our hope and faith that he can once again do it again and provide that passing and rushing upside. And we paired him there with Derrick Henry. So, going to read over this roster. Quarterback in the MEGALABOWL is Lamar Jackson. Our running backs are Derrick Henry and Isaiah Pacheco, who we decided to choose over Saquon Barkley in this draft. Our wide receivers are Malik Neighbors and Terry McLaurin, with our tight end Jake Ferguson. Our two flex spots are Zamir White and Chris Godwin. Defense, Houston Texans, with our bench essentially being Blake Corum, Khalil Shakur, Adam Thielen, Jalen Wright, and Luke McCaffrey. I'll admit, definitely would love to have a more boosted bench. Wish we could have had Keon Coleman on here. Wish we could have had Brian Thomas Jr. on here. Wish we could have Xavier Worthy, Jerome Ford, a lot of these guys who we were hoping could possibly fall to us here later on. Just didn't make it to us. So we definitely tried to find the best value we could where we could. Especially in the wide receivers, with them possibly having those wide receiver starts. And then, of course, running back wise, they are waiting on injuries. But luckily for us, that's why we spent up on our two running backs with Derrick Henry and Isaiah Pacheco and Zamir White to have three stud ones should anything happen to at least one of those. So really appreciate you guys following along. Glad we were able to get through this draft. You guys take care. It is Friday. We had a game just yesterday, have another game tonight, another first weekend officially of football, and guys, we are here. Obviously, this was the Fantasy Stand podcast where we were doing a fantasy football draft before the start of the NFL season. We'll definitely decide what to do with the podcast or with this YouTube video cast after. Especially if maybe it's just to follow my leagues, maybe talk about some waiver wire pickups. I am in a 10-team league, 12-team league, 14-team league. No 16-team or anything other than that, which I kind of regret. I wish I would have been able to hop in one just to be able to see how the competition was like when some of those rosters are really thinned out. But could possibly come back and talk about some waiver wire pickups, especially in those different leagues. Especially with them being the different sizes. Some are going to be available in some leagues. Like for example, like Zeke Elliott is like one of the running backs in the 10 team that is still available. It's just really hard to when you look at your roster right now, not knowing what you have, to just drop someone for. Someone is going to run for 30 yards but still get a touchdown. He, of course, will probably be a top pickup. If people don't jump on him the first week, obviously the second and third. But really appreciate you guys following along. This is, I think, episode 47. We were able to get 47 in before the start of the NFL draft. Like I said, guys, we will be back, especially at the end of the season, drafting once again because I'm a degenerate like that. Just love drafting. So appreciate it again. Good luck to you all this season. You all take care, and this isn't goodbye forever. We will be back, and wouldn't be surprised if it's even next week. So you guys take care, and we'll see you again. Bye.